Welcome to the Endless Frontiers, your home for all things science fiction and science fiction. I'm your host, Jed Morgan, and the first two episodes of Starfleet Academy are out, so let's talk about them. I have had the grave misfortune of viewing the first two episodes of Starfleet Academy, so you don't have to. In short, if you don't want to stick around for this entire review, this show is irredeemable. It is a disaster on every known level. I will not be talking about a single positive thing from either of these two episodes. I normally like to look for a few positive glimmers so that my reviews seem balanced, if nothing else. But I physically could not find anything. I'm sure the people in the comments will clarify some things that I might have missed that had some brief glimpses of quality, but I physically could not see them. I was in a fetal position in too much pain to notice anything like that, from the cringe acting, the awful dialogue writing, and the plots that just don't matter. This show isn't a complicated mess. It isn't too many storylines weaving together in a way that just hurts your brain from the stupidity. It is a simple A to B plot, but it's so shallow and dumb, fueled by characters that I wish would blow up, that it's not worth following in any way, shape, or form. I do not recommend viewing these first two episodes or continuing with the show at all. This show is an absolute disaster. I can't believe that there are people who are praising it at this point for just being different. Different isn't something that we need in Star Trek right now. In fact, we need something a little bit more traditional in Star Trek. All we've had besides Picard Season 3 over the last 20 years has been different Star Trek. And it's all been varying degrees of bad and disrespectful to the original source material. We need some traditional Star Trek. We need heartwarming Star Trek. We need thought-provoking Star Trek. We need Star Trek that has a moral backbone. These two episodes show morally bankrupt characters doing ridiculous things, and there's no way that this is a military that anyone should fear. The Romulans, the Klingons, I haven't watched all of Star Trek Discovery, to be fair, so I don't know what lore that they've added on to what's going on with those empires. But any hostile race should look at a barefoot Chancellor, sitting in her captain's chair at a funky angle like this, and think, yeah, I could take her. And she's representing the entire Starfleet for portions of these episodes. The entire Federation. There's no way that this Federation should exist. There's no way that they can stand up to anyone. The world building just doesn't make sense. And with what they let these kids at the Starfleet Academy get away with, it's insane. This is a private school in LA that prioritizes diversity and equates that to your level of punishment. It is a horrible show that I cannot steer you away from quick enough. But that's enough of my spoiler-free thoughts. Let's dive into some more specifics of the spoilers of these episodes right after a word from our sponsor, Plotter. This video is sponsored by Plotter. Every writer knows the drill. Staring at a blank page, characters ghosting you mid-plot, timelines unraveling like a bad sweater. Then I found Plotter, my plotting lifeline. Visual timelines that snap into place, drag and drop scenes to tame the wildest arcs, character sheets to keep everyone on track. I've used Plotter to create a series bible, multi-track storylines, and lore documents that make world building a breeze. Use my link or scan the QR code today to get Plotter for life with a single payment of $150. Let Plotter help you conquer your stories. Link in the description. I will be giving a brief overview of each episode before I dive into my specific thoughts on them. So with episode 1, it follows Holly Hunter's Aki character in a flashback at the beginning, where she's a tribunal judge or something like that. There's this woman and her son who have been arrested by the Federation and are being held in custody. It turns out this woman teamed up with Paul Giamatti's character to attack a food transport ship, and Paul Giamatti killed a Federation officer on that food transport. My first question is, this is Star Trek. Are food replicators not a thing? Starvation should be virtually erased within Federation borders, and they're incredibly humanitarian friendly. I know the burn doesn't matter when it comes to this level of technology. Food replicators are not dependent on warp cores to function, so food replicators should still be working absolutely fine. But whatever, there's this food transport, and somebody dies. She is an accomplice to murder, even though she didn't pull the trigger, even though this woman, this mother, didn't kill this man. She is still an accomplice to murder. She still committed a robbery. And it doesn't matter what your reasons are. You're trying to feed your kid? Yes, but that's still a crime and it led to a death. There should be leniencies if it's theft, but it's armed robbery that ended in murder. She should be punished. So that's exactly what Holly Hunter does. She has Paul Giamatti arrested and sent to prison, whereas the mother goes to rehabilitation camp because Holly Hunter feels bad. You've got a kid? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be really lenient on you because you have a kid. So she separates the mother from the son, and the son manages to escape because the mother yelled, "Don't trust anyone! Don't trust anyone!" As the kid later on says when he's grown up, the Federation is the villain in my story too. This is a very anti-Federation show, and that really bothers me as a Star Trek fan. Federation should be a utopia in the modern sense of the word, not the original. It's a goal to strive for, but modern Star Trek continually makes it an obstacle, a fascist regime, or whatever to make them the villains, and that's exactly what they're doing here. So the kid runs away from Holly Hunter because, oh, there's a big scary fascist from space. And 15 years later, we jump, he's nearly an adult, he's a teenager, and he's got a criminal record. He's been arrested by bounty hunters. He's trying to find his mom, and it doesn't matter how many crimes he needs to commit because he doesn't like the Federation. Yeah, all the crimes that he commits are totally fine by Holly Hunter's perspective because I separated him from his mama, so he can be as bad as he wants, but he needs to come work for me now because I can make him better. Like, she just erases his whole past and is like, you know what? I know you've committed these crimes. I know that you're one bad day away from murdering a bunch of people, but I'm gonna let it slide. You know what? I separated you from your mom, so who cares? There is broken morality in the show, but I will talk about that more. So Holly Hunter manages to get this kid, Caleb, out of prison in exchange for him joining Starfleet. So they go join Starfleet. Holly Hunter, after being retired from Starfleet for the last 15 years, has been promoted to Chancellor of Starfleet Academy. So after she grabs Caleb, she goes to this ship where a bunch of other kids are, and they're like, hey, this ship is Starfleet Academy. Let's fly it back to Earth. Instead of starting on Earth, I have a lot of thoughts about the school being a ship. I will get into more of that later. But they're on their way back to Earth, and Paul Giamatti finds out where they are because Caleb has sent a transmission looking for his mother after all these years. And Paul Giamatti just can't stand that the Holly Hunter put this poor boy in a Starfleet uniform after what she did to him. And he attacks, they manage to ward him off, blow up his ship, he escapes in an escape pod. And then they make it to San Francisco on Earth. And that's the first episode of Starfleet Academy. Yeah, this is a really warped sense of morality, especially with the Holly Hunter at one point saying, there is no reason to separate parents from their children. There is no moral justification to do that. Never is it okay. I could think of a few situations where it'd be okay. Is murder bad enough for Holly Hunter to think parents should be separated from their kids? Is any felony bad enough? No? Well, I mean, this was a felony, armed robbery, and that wasn't enough. She regrets separating the mother from the son so much that she spent the last 15 years looking for Caleb to recruit him because she feels bad for going light on his mother because she had a son. She wishes she had gone even lighter. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. Where in Star Trek, punishing people for their felony crimes is not okay if they have children. This isn't a military. This isn't a strong force. Yes, they're explorers first, obviously, in classic Star Trek, but they're still a force to be reckoned with. Jean-Luc Picard looks up at the stars and dreams about visiting every single one. But when an armed warbird appears, he's going to stand firm and fire phasers. He's going to show strength when necessary. I don't believe Holly Hunter is capable of any strength, and she is at the most important position in Starfleet for molding the next generation of officers, the first generation after the burn, really, from the accounts of the episode. And she fights so hard to get Caleb to not be punished for letting Paul Giamatti know where they are, on accident, of course, but letting them know where the ship is, the Athena is, she fights so hard for him not to be punished. Ultimately, she had to make a compromise and he had to do some work. But it sounded like she was all for him not having any punishments whatsoever. She is really okay with Caleb doing whatever he wants just because she separated him from his mother when he was a child. In my opinion, Holly Hunter's character is the worst of the show. She's written horribly, she's performed horribly. I don't know Holly Hunter from many other things, but I think that she is by far the worst part of this show. The kids are bad, yes, don't get me wrong, but they're just flat, boring, unskilled actors doing their best, and whatever. I just kind of ignore the hologram girl and the Klingon who does no harm and all that other crap with the other kids. I just kind of ignore them. Holly Hunter is my focus, and Holly Hunter is a poor representation of a show, let alone as Chancellor of Starfleet Academy. The last couple things I want to mention for episode 1 is just when Paul Giamatti attacks, he has programmable matter that attaches us to the whole of the Athena and disables everything. But luckily, Caleb has experience with programmable matter, and he could disable it as long as he gets a serial number. But we can't go outside to look at the programmable matter because students aren't allowed to have spacesuits. But luckily, there's one kid out of the 3 kids who happen to be standing next to Caleb when this goes wrong can survive in space. They have a convenient space-proof alien on hand. He goes outside, and what's even worse is, yes, he has a communicator without a spacesuit on, right? So he can hear what another one of the students who's helping him from the inside of the ship is saying. Sure, whatever, it's using vibration, I can accept that. But he can talk to her in space. I don't believe you. So, first, a convenient space-proof alien and a space-proof alien that can speak in outer space using sound waves in a vacuum. I know I'm more attuned to the science than most people watching the show or watching this review, but that is one of the most obvious things to get right. No sound in space. That is one thing that people always talk about. Even people who aren't into astronomy and astrophysics like myself understand that rule. And there's some times where you let allowances for it, like with spaceships or explosions or stuff like that. But talking in the void is not something that even normal people make allowances for. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I just want to, as a side note, I hate the Wall-E robots in this episode. I don't know if they were set up in Star Trek Discovery or anything like that, but this doesn't feel like Star Trek. This feels like Wall-E. Even the costuming, the red uniforms they wear look a lot like the Wall-E jumpsuits. Everything's been redesigned from the ships to the uniforms to the comm badges. Nothing about this show looks like Star Trek. I know it takes place several centuries in the future from TNG, for example, but you still have to have that thread, that root, that connective tissue from one generation to another. The original Star Trek versus TNG is a perfect example of that. You can look at everything in that show and know, yeah, they got updated uniforms, but that's clearly still a starship bridge from Star Trek. That's still clearly the outside of the Enterprise. There was connective tissue where you could obviously tell what show, what franchise the show was a part of. This, if I didn't know better, I would not say this was Star Trek, because it so little resembles the franchise that Alex Kurtzman has been bastardizing for the last 15 years. But those are my thoughts on episode 1 of Starfleet Academy. To get my thoughts on episode 2, and to get some closing thoughts about both of these episodes to this premiere, tune into my episode 2 review coming out tomorrow. But that's all that I have for today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. The more support this channel gets, the closer we are to publishing the Endless Frontier novels. Until then, have a stellar day and stay curious.
There isn't time for an alternative.
Venturing out into the unknown doesn't have to be frightening.
To push the boundaries of the known with the never conceived of.
Today the world will remember who we are and never forget it.